Check out Ty Herndon's new album, Jacob, streaming everywhere now.
Hey guys, I'm Ty Herndon, and this is Soundboard, my podcast in partnership with Pivotal Moments Media. We invite you to listen in as we talk with my fellow artists about how they turn down the negative voices and turn up the positive ones in order to achieve their dreams and live healthy, happy, mentally fit lives. Welcome to the conversation. So, here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Right.
Here's the thing.
I see what you did there.
You were so sweet. You sent me a copy of this. I got it in the mail.
Uh-huh.
And of course, you know, I purchased 3 because I like to give gifts
Okay.
away.
That seems excessive, Ty.
It does, but that's just me. You know, I'm a recovering addict. So
I feel like maybe a stalker. If you have 4 copies of my book at home,
they're all signed.
I like it. No,
hey man, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. I'm excited you're doing this. I'm excited about this album being out. We've talked about it so much over the past year, and I know it's such a labor of love. Music is that way. The book was for me, for you, you know, it's all about the music, and particularly the story. Once I realized what you were talking about with these songs,
right,
I understood this whole like pathway to redemption that you've sort of been on. And wow, I can't wait to hear all these tunes though. So thank you again for inviting me.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for the sweet album plug there. It is a story about changing your ending, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today because I love your story.
Thank you.
Number one, you started South Carolina, Georgia, Dallas, all these places, and landed at CMT. So I think my big question I always like to ask right off the bat is, all of this journey has taken place, and here's little Cody sitting there. What are you going to say to him?
The younger self?
The younger self.
The younger me? Oh gosh, I don't know. I always feel like the things that happen to us along the way are meant to teach us something. And if we sort of alter that pathway, it messes up the teaching. And so
I love that.
For me, a lot of people would say, oh, well, I would tell him, don't do this or move here, or don't take this, make that choice. For me, it was always about like, learning from the ups and the downs, and so and bouncing back from those moments figuring out how to be, you know, how to move that to that next chapter, if you will. To bring up the book again, did I mention there's a book? Just kidding.
I love that. You know,
every piece is sort of a chapter. I always feel like, right? Even the good parts, the bad parts, just turn the page, and there's something to come.
I think this show is called Soundboard, and I love that we're turning up the volume. And one of the things that we talk about here is turning down the negative voices and turning up the positive voices.
Yeah.
And having the opportunity to sit here and talk about that, because I loved what you said about, I want to hear more about this, about the teaching moments.
Yeah. Well, that's why I have you as a friend, first of all. Like, we get together, we hang out. I called you last week because I was like, I made a commitment at the beginning of the year. I was going to talk more to my friends. And that seems weird, but we work so hard. We're so busy sometimes. We're caught up in kids and family and whatever. And we forget sometimes to continue to connect our relationships. And so I made my New Year's resolution was to every day call or get together with friends and just say hi. How are you doing? And I forget what your question was, but it does lead me to think that that's a very healthy thing to be doing, those conversations and building on each other.
Teaching moments, yeah.
Yeah. What have you learned lately? What's going on in your life? These sort of things.
Right, but you need to remember that I'm the interviewer here.
Oh,
today.
sorry.
Yeah, I know you do this for a living.
right.
So don't make me nervous by doing that, man.
I feel like the tables have turned here in sort of an odd way. You've waited for this moment forever, haven't you, Ty?
I have, boy. You're in trouble.
Just for the chance.
The things that are coming on this paper.
Just for the chance.
I love you, man. I think that watching you over time.
Thanks.
Even with your coming out experiences, we're going to get to it in a moment. You have been a teacher. And our wonderful partner here is a company called Pivotal Moments Media, and great people. But I think we're going to lean in today to some of those pivotal moments in your career, in your life, that got you where you are today and helped you through some tough times.
Okay, that seems heavy.
It is.
But I'm ready. So let's go. Bring it on, Mr. Herndon, with the questions.
What would you say are two big pivotal moments?
Yeah. Well, there's been a lot of them for me. I've had moments where I've had to take a left or a right turn, and the logic often for me has been, I should be doing that because that's what my mind says. And I've learned I really often have to follow my heart because it's better for me. I don't know how it works for everybody else, but to me, sort of the spirit around a decision, I may be an overthinker, overanalyzer with a lot of decisions I've made in my life, but I believe that the more you kind of dig deep when you're making those big, important life decisions, for me, it was, radio, television career, where do I go? What stations do I go to next? And, if you get a job offer over here, is that the right one? Should we go there or not?
Right.
Do you change directions because of that? So when you analyze any big life decision like I'm talking about, I think it's just so important you listen to that the heart, the inner voice, however you want to term it, your intuition.
My sponsor always says it's one of the things that he's coined that has stuck with me through, especially the last 14 months of my life. Because I had this during COVID, a lot of people went through some challenges. I had a relapse, and it really created this whole album that we were just talking about earlier. But one of the things that he says is listen to the whisper and follow the breadcrumbs. So
I like that.
I love the fact that people kind of hear voices, where there's a higher power and intuition.
Yeah.
Have you had those moments?
Oh, sure. Lots of times. And it's not always, I think people, when they think about, hearing a voice, it's like, okay, an angel came to you and sat down in a chair.
Did me.
Okay. Well, it happens for everyone a little differently. I think for some people like me, it's a lot more subtle than that. But I do definitely feel like there's sort of a North Star, a compass within. And I try to follow that North Star wherever it directs.
Love that.
And I do think it's a God thing. It's you could call it universal pull, magnetic, whatever. I think all that there's some truth to those things. And the simplest way to sort of dig into that, I think, is to think of it as your intuition. Think of it as that voice within.
And I think also just being wide awake and knowing what's going on in your space. I always like to say this, in your town.
Yeah.
The bricks and mortar that make up you, and who you're listening to, and who is the teacher in your life for that moment. It may not be a great thing that's happening, but I've learned just to kind of settle down.
Yeah.
And pay attention. And what's the teaching moment for me in that? And I think that really has a lot to do with mentally how I am for the day.
Yeah.
What do you do to stay mentally fit?
I think it's so important to reach out when you're struggling, or when you're making a decision, or you got a challenge of any kind. We all have something we're dealing with. We all got a mess we have to clean up at some point in our lives. And I think that it's so important to reach out. And one of the things I really wanted to point out with the book, because it is, yes, it's all my crazy country music adventures over the years, and it's like stories of my life, of course, but I really weaved into all those stories real lessons about listening to each other, and almost more importantly, when you speak and you have an issue, you have a problem, you have a challenge you're trying to work through, reaching out to someone else who can hear you and will help you. I think it's so important to talk to each other, to communicate.
I love that.
And I think that's
amazing.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think I do to stay mentally fit. Is what happens when you start doing that is you find that there's a confirmation that occurs often. Like, you may be thinking, oh, I got to go this direction. That's what I feel I need to do. And you're just sort of waiting for whatever sign might come along, and someone will say something that sort of says and confirms to you that's the way to go. And that's why I think it's so important to talk, to communicate, to listen to what other people say.
Tell me a recent confirmation that happened.
I was thinking about, it's so funny, this morning I thought about when I first came to Nashville, and that could have happened years ago when I met you, because around the time I was doing that morning show in Texas, in Dallas, That's where I first met you. We're both
Right.
being super straight at the time, by the way.
And if we'd only known, we could have been how many years married. You know?
Right, we could have been married by the most perfect couple ever.
I would say that to Shelley Wright too. So
Right. But when I met you years ago doing that radio show, I had been offered a job in Nashville. Great job, double the pay that I was making in Dallas at the time. I was worried about my job there because we were the third place country music station in Dallas, and that's not a good spot to be in.
Right.
And we were struggling, and
unless they're playing your record.
Yes, and we were playing a lot of Ty Herndon, but everybody was playing a lot of Ty Herndon. So what was beginning to happen was you were trying to fight for our competitive space. And it wasn't happening, you know? So they hired a new guy to come into the Dallas station and to run the place. He was going to be the new
name? Do you remember?
Brian Phillips.
Brad Phillips. Yes.
PD of a station in Atlanta. He did rock and pop radio, so we all thought
that happened a lot.
Yes, we all thought the format was going to change. They were going to make the country station I worked for pop or rock.
Right.
And so I had this job offer to go to Nashville. But I sat down with Brian because I was conflicted over it, talking about reaching out to people. Yeah. I'd gotten to know him only a few weeks into his job there. Didn't know him very well at all.
Right.
But he said, "No, I want you to stay here. I'll take care of you. We'll figure this out. And the station's going to be country, and we're going to make this a brand new approach." So we call it the Wolf.
I love the Wolf. That was a pivotal moment.
It was a big moment. And if I had taken the double pay salary over here, that would have been the logical thing to do.
Yeah.
But at the time, I just really felt drawn to this new idea of being in Texas, making it work. I hadn't moved to Dallas to fail. I wanted to make that station work, and I wanted to. And he confirmed to me what I think I already knew going into it.
Yeah.
Is that I was going to follow my heart and not just the money, the logic, if you will.
Tell me about a failure. A failure that you had to work through.
Oh my gosh! Anything?
I'm a hard interview, man.
This is tough stuff. There have been a bunch of those. I think.
And how you worked through it.
I didn't expect to ever be on television. I'd done radio my whole life. Right. And I'd gotten lucky at CMT. They hired me just to do radio. So I was just going to be the radio guy when I came to yeah. And they started putting these, they'll do this for the new shows like Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders or the Top 20 Countdown or whatever. They'll put up like little placards by the elevator doors that'll show like the new show. And so for like a week, I was the new guy. So they put my little face next to the elevator with the placard there.
How'd that feel?
It felt great. And so because of that, though, one of the producers in the building doing television stuff said, he's not that ugly. Maybe we could use him for something.
I didn't want to offend you, but I was going to say, I was going to raise you up and say, look at that face.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's a face for TV.
Somebody saw something in me and thought I could do it. I got, kind of a weekend job doing a few things on the channel, and then the Top 20 job came open. They hired somebody else. I was hugely disappointed because I really wanted it.
Sure.
And I thought, okay, I prepared for this, somewhat my whole life for opportunities, and it sort of, the door was slammed.
Yeah.
So I, packed up my marbles and went and played somewhere else for a little while and just did the radio thing for a long time. Eventually, the guy who got hired got canned. They needed somebody, so that was my opening. But it took a little bit of that dark side, that down period of just, okay, let me just sit back and humbly do what I do.
It was
Absolutely.
a huge teaching moment that you paid attention to. And that's awesome. I know from my own experience that I've had a lot of teaching moments. I just didn't know they were teaching moments.
Right.
And being wide awake now and really paying attention to God, universe, and getting so centered.
Right.
And just kind of journeying on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm bringing some music in there.
Yeah.
You remember that song? Journey on. Anyhow, I want to ask you this because I've always seen you as this most joyful, happy guy. Mm-hmm. Even in the process of coming out, you were so centered. What brings you joy?
Well, I think that, first of all, this kind of thing brings me joy. I love the idea of doing something fun like this with you. the music, obviously the business, the show business that we get to be a
brings you
part
joy.
of. I mean, it's fun.
It's fun.
It's a passion. I've always
Happiness.
wanted
Yes.
to do it. Not everyone has that.
Yeah.
I realize it's a great gift to be able to wake up every day and do something that you love doing, something you're passionate about that drives you to get out of the bed in the morning. You're not showing up at a cubicle like so many people have to do. So
Right.
I know it's a gift. So I'm grateful for it. Family brings joy.
Yes.
I think my kids, they're a little bit older now, so it's super fun because I'm not raising them anymore. They can find their way to the cereal in the cupboard. I mean, it's better. It's better when they're raised.
So I want to talk about this because, you know, I was married before as well, and there was a lot of trauma around getting out of that.
Yeah.
And
How long were you married?
I was married for a year the first time, and was married for a little longer the second time.
And I was married, of course. Both you were married to women. I was married to a woman.
Yes, but my second marriage was a little different because I'm married to keep my record deal.
Oh.
Yes, so that's all coming out.
It's so
page.
interesting. The many times we've talked, I don't know all of that.
Yes, we'll talk about that when we're talking about me. We're talking about you
Oh,
right
sorry.
now. I know that had to bring some trauma.
Yeah.
It had to bring stuff. And my question is, in the process of healing, I've heard you talk about you have a great relationship with your ex-wife and your children. You guys vacation together and you do fun things. That road to healing, what was that like?
Well, I mean, that first conversation of talking to her about being gay and having these feelings my entire life was the most difficult talk I've ever had to have. You know,
I can imagine.
It's, as you know, it's incredible to have to change something that seems like from the outside looking in is all on track.
Yeah.
You know, it's you talk about the smiley, happy guy on TV or on the radio.
Yeah, what's going on in there?
Yeah, it's you still come home and you turn on the lights of the house, and what are you then? And sort of when I started digging into that, I realized I had a few problems in my life, particularly one that I had never worked out, and that was knowing I was gay, knowing where my heart was on that subject, and yet never doing anything about it. And it was tearing me apart inside. I'd be down often. She noticed, kids noticed. I mean, ultimately that grinds and not to use grinder, but that's
I know what you're talking about.
that's sort of like over time, it sort of like tears into you, and you know,
trauma.
So I talked to her about it. Of course, she was disappointed, but we decided, like, deliberately, after getting through the first few days of that revelation, that we were gonna love each other through it. We were gonna co-parent, figure out a way to love the kids, make them the priority. And we didn't. She knew I was being honest, and that I wasn't making something up. And it was like, okay, why would he do this? Clearly he has a challenge, an issue he needs to work through. And she met me with love, and it was powerful, and has been since, because we're still besties. We still hang out. We still enjoy each other's company. It's just, I have my guy now, she has her guy now, and but we're still kind of in the same, on a similar pathway, which is beautiful. It's family.
It's family. You used the term earlier, we make messes. It sounds like that you were able to make that path a clean one, and you were able to have some healing in that, and you were conscious of others' feelings through that time, and you didn't leave it a mess. And I think that is so incredible that you were able to do that. And because we were talking about mental health here today, because I often thought about my partners at the time, my wife, her mental health, and how I could ease that and how I could help when I felt like I didn't have a right to. And so I wondered, did you ever feel that way? Yeah,
I mean, I felt so ashamed.
Shame is
shamed for a long, long time, and even after our conversations about it, and sort of even getting down the road of like opening up to my coworkers and other people about myself. I remember opening up to you at one point in a text message, and ultimately, even through all of that, though, you still carry with it's some like, oh my gosh, I messed up some lives here or something.
Yeah.
And so there was like guilt that I felt sometimes with that. But then I realized, because I was so worried about my kids, they saw me after coming out as a much happier guy.
Right.
They saw me as a guy who brings light into a room, into the home, and that was it became sort of the what comforted me and ultimately got me to the place where I have peace about all this. So I don't carry that shame anymore. So I don't carry that guilt.
Clearly
it's just
beautiful.
about carrying the light as much as I can.
May I ask 2 semi-difficult questions?
These have been all difficult. When is there an easy questions here? When do we get to the easy ones?
They're easier. They're coming up.
Okay.
No, I think this is a question that you'll like.
Okay.
What would you say to a dad who's struggling like you were out there and really doesn't know where to go and what to do?
It's first of all, I try to help people who reach out, and I've had quite a few over the years. I'm sure you get it.
Yeah.
I get a message or email, someone coming up to you at a concert or a festival or something, and who's struggling with this topic. And I'm careful not to give advice because I think it's so important that everyone is on their own journey. And I can't tell you what to do. You have to go on that journey yourself.
Yeah.
And dig deep and find out what your heart.
For you.
Yeah, what is best for you. But I do always say this, love your kids. Put them as a priority. Let that sort of guide you to your decision making. Because if that's number one, the rest will make sense. And the timing will find its way. I purposely really waited till later because when my kids were a little bit older before I even talked to them about this. Because I just did not, at the time, I felt like I would somehow mess with them. Mess with their psyche or something. Now that's not necessarily true, but that's what I felt at the time. And so I had to sort of let them reach a level of maturity where I thought I could have these conversations with them about myself.
That you just answered my next question.
Okay.
Really, what would you? But I'm still going to ask it.
Okay.
What would you say to a kid that their dad just came out to them? I don't have kids, so
I think love is the answer, and I know it sounds so cliche, but
no, it's a great answer, man.
But it's like you just have to love each other through things.
Dad loves you.
Yeah, your dad loves you, and love your dad because that's. And the same goes for
amazing.
A wife who might get information like this from her spouse or her husband, and not to say that it's so simplified when you just say love is the answer. There are intricacies to all of that, but as long as you are doing your best to make sure that love exists in the decision-making process, there's compassion, empathy, then I think it kind of, you can figure it out.
I gotta hug you right now.
Okay.
That's a great answer, man. I love that so much. I love you. So I know, I love this book.
I appreciate it. I love you too.
If you had to pick a favorite moment in this book,
oh man,
that you got to say something.
Well, I can't believe. First off, just Keith Urban wrote the foreword. I love that. I was blown. I don't even. This job that I have has allowed me opportunities to meet amazing, talented people like you who are much more talented than I am. Same with Keith Urban. I don't deserve to know Keith Urban, but somehow I do. And he was sweet enough to do that. I would say there are a lot of like fun stories in here.
Yeah,
what we're talking about here is very deep, and there are definitely those things in there. You get kind of the behind the scenes moments, these conversations when they happened, and the details, because I really wanted people to hear those conversations word for word, how they happened in my memory. And I one of my favorite things I do in the book is also my kids write their point of view. My ex writes her point of view.
Yeah.
My current partner I say current like he's going away. He's not. He's staying.
Oh, I'm going there too. So you keep talking.
All right. He writes. From his point of view, and then I have some coworkers and just important people in my life who I really wanted to give them a chance to speak in the book. And so I love that. But I love the little country music stories too. You know, Garth Brooks, first meeting him, what that was like, because he's kind of a bigger than life guy. Carrie Underwood, the role she played in the fact that Trey and I got engaged and met.
You're taking all my questions away, man. So I'm going to just circle it around here. So you met someone and you fell in love, you know, and I'm currently single and, you know, husband shopping. So I've given you that role.
You know, I thought Colton Underwood and you were the perfect, because you're his type.
I right? I mean,
I was like,
the one that got away.
Who knew so quickly it was going to be, he was going to find somebody, like within like a month or two.
I'm having a feeling it was maybe already there.
You think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
I mean,
I know.
My mom met my dad and married him 2 weeks later, so who knows? You know.
When you know,
I like a long courtship myself. You met Trey and you knew?
Yeah. We met at a Carrie Underwood concert.
Yes.
Back in the day.
Was it like across the room kind of thing?
I will clearly, I'm super hot. And so he was drawn in.
It's in here, guys. It's in here.
He was drawn in by my, you've seen
You are super hot.
You've seen this physique. It's amazing. No, listen, he was so cute. Yeah. And I was like, meeting some folks in line that were coming to the concert because we were doing a CMT show. And so, the cameras were rolling as I was saying hi to folks, and he was one of the people there. And later he took a picture, and then we started corresponding on social media and like, oh, how you doing? So
get on social media.
Yeah.
I check my messages every day, but then nothing's happening. So.
It worked for us though, and he helped me a ton, Ty, to finally come out, to the world. I hadn't at the time, and by then he was the impetus for me to like say the things I needed to say and really buoyed me in that moment.
Love that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
If I can share one more personal thing about that, because he taught me something really valuable. He was in a tragic car accident in high school. He was a passenger. His friend who was driving died.
Oh my God.
Trey was in a coma for several weeks.
Do not know this story.
Yeah. So he had, after he bounced back from all that, had to go to rehab for, learn how to walk again, speech therapy to learn how to talk again.
Really?
All this. And so, but the one thing that he said after going through that was that I'm not going to pretend anymore about who I am. I'm going to live and I'm going to be me. And so after that, he came out to everybody and said, this is who I am.
That's beautiful.
Take it or leave it, because this is my life now, and I'm going to live it.
Such an awesome story for kids to hear, and for grown-ups to hear. I know. I knew in my blood and bones when I couldn't go any further down the road. Yeah, I knew in my blood and bones that I couldn't do this anymore. I couldn't do this life without people knowing my whole story. Right. And the same with my with the relapse that happened 14 months ago. It's part of my story now, and I have to be honest with what I put out there. And so you have completely done that.
But
with your story, man.
I appreciate you saying that, but thank you for sharing that too, because I think it's so important to realize talented, successful, proud, out. Man of integrity, all these things that you are, you can still fall.
Absolutely.
And you can still get up afterwards too. And that's the lesson with what you're teaching people.
You can change your ending.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what this show for me is all about. And thank you, man. You got me through this. I'm not going to get emotional here at the very end.
I know. I'm feeling it too.
What's coming up for you?
Well, 2022, already off to a great start as a year. Hopefully traveling again a little more.
I miss seeing you on the beach doing the shows.
We haven't done a whole lot of that. We kind of, like everybody last year during the summer, things started to pick up again. We started traveling. I was finally able to use some of those Southwest drink coupons in my wallet.
They just brought that back.
I know.
The alcoholic would know that. Yes.
That's right. Oh, sorry.
Alcoholic.
Point being that things started to get back to normal. And then, of course, it was shut down again with Delta and Omicron and all the rest. And so I hope this year brings a lot more travel because I'm ready to get back out on the road. Yeah. I mean, that's what's fun, is doing shows and interviews with people from fun concerts and festivals and stuff.
My mom said that. She said, tell you hi, by the way.
Oh, I love your mom.
My mom
Sweetheart.
said, she goes, during COVID, she goes, you haven't been home this much since high school. I was like, do you still like me? She goes, yeah, you're okay. I love you, son. Thank you for being here, Cody Allen. I love you,
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Love you too.
Wide open heart.
Thank you.
Let's do it again.
Let's do it again. Yes.
All right.
I'll bring the serious questions next time.
Oh, I've painted myself into a corner, haven't I?
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Soundboard. I'm Ty Herndon, reminding you to turn down the negative and turn up the positive on the soundboards of your own life.